Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everybody. Our lesson today is how we can test presence of negative ions. In the last period, I talked to you our lesson today in page 194. Start in 194. Testing for negative ions. In the last period, I explained to you how we can test positive ions either by using the flame test, and I sent a video show you the practical part in this lesson, flame test, and I said to you these colors are very important, and I explained to you that the salt, any salt contain positive ions that we call cations and negative ions that we call anions. In the last period, I explained to you how we can test the presence of these cations either by flame test or by adding sodium hydroxide, because as you know, most of the hydroxide salts are insoluble, so there is a precipitate formed. According to its color, we can detect either this is copper, this is iron 3 or iron 2 according to the color. And I said to you this table in page 194 is important table. Also, I explained to you how we can test the presence of water by using anhydrous, that's to say without water, anhydrous copper sulfate, which is white in color. In the presence of water, it will change into hydrate copper sulfate, blue in color. Today, inshallah, we will talk about the negative ions in a salt, what we call anions. In the beginning, I want to test the presence of carbonate group. How we can test the presence of carbonate? By adding to the solid salt itself or solution made from this salt, and the salt under test, I add to it dilute hydrochloric acid or dilute nitric acid. Okay, I see fizzing of gas. What is this gas? It is carbon dioxide gas. I said to you a lot that carbonate as a reactant produce carbon dioxide as a product. Okay, here, so the salt under test or the solution under test, to test the presence of carbonate ions, we can use dilute acid. Which acid? We can use dilute hydrochloric acid, we can use dilute nitric acid, and get fizzing gas. This gas is carbon dioxide. And how we can test the presence of carbon dioxide? I said to you in the last period, by using lime water, it changed milky. So please make highlight to these 3 lines. Add a dilute hydrochloric acid to your sample of salt and look for fizzing bubbles of gas. Fizzing indicators that a gas is given off. What is the gas? Carbon dioxide. This only I want in testing carbonate -2. Okay? Where you can find it in the guidebook. Finally, when I finish explaining the lesson, I said to you which page you can study this lesson from it in the guidebook. And then, if I want to test the presence of sulfate, if I want to test the presence of sulfate, SO4 -2, I test the presence of sulfate by precipitation with barium chloride solution. To an aqueous solution of the solid under test, add dilute hydrochloric acid followed by a few drops of barium chloride solution. We add, here we have a white question. I said to you the test I want, the salt I want to test it, or the salt under test, I I add few drops from dilute hydrochloric acid. Why dilute hydrochloric acid? To remove all the impurities may be found with the salt. So here we have a Y question. Please make highlight here. We add few drops of acid to remove other anions. To remove other anions. And then add, followed by few drops of barium chloride solution. Barium chloride solution. What I get, I'll find, or what is the observation? White precipitate. White precipitate. This indicates presence of sulfate. So, to test the presence of carbonate, we will use the solid salt as it is or make solution from it. I'll add to it dilute hydrochloric acid or dilute nitric acid. I'll see fizzy gas, which is carbon dioxide. We can test the carbon dioxide by lime water and change it into milky. And to test the presence of sulfate, I'll take an aqueous solution from the solid under test, add to it few drops from dilute hydrochloric acid, then few drops from barium sulfate. Why I add drops from hydrochloric acid? To be sure that all the other anions removed. And then few drops from barium chloride, I'll find white precipitate. I don't want anything else. Okay? How we can find this in the guidebook? Now we are in page 194 and 195. In your guidebook in page 55, this is your guidebook. Okay, page 55. You can find the summary of testing sulfate and carbonate. I don't want anything else like this. In these experiments or in these two tests, I wanted this summary only. Sulfate ions by precipitating with the barium chloride, adding few drops of dilute hydrochloric acid and then barium chloride, white precipitate, and testing carbonate ions by adding either hydrochloric acid or nitric acid, phasing of carbon dioxide. Guidebook, page 55. Important. When I say to you that there is a page important in guidebook, so you have to study it. It is a summary of this lesson, okay? And then we tested presence of carbonate, we tested presence of sulfate, and then I want to test the presence of halide. What does it mean by halide? Negative ions like chlorine, bromine, iodine, group 7, okay? I'll test the presence of chlorine, bromine, iodine, okay? How I can test this halide? By precipitation. Precipitation, using what? What is the thing I use it to test this halide? Chlorine, bromine, and iodine. I use precipitation with silver nitrate solution. Silver nitrate solution. Silver nitrate solution is a colorless solution, like water. And we took it before in other experiment when we had the silver nitrate and the copper, okay, in a displacement reaction. Okay, so here to test the presence of halide like chlorine, bromine, iodine, I'll use silver nitrate solution. Silver nitrate solution to an aqueous solution of the solid under test, I'll add some dilute nitric acid. Why dilute nitric acid? To be sure that there is no thing can give me the precipitate to remove all the impurities can found. And then followed by drops of silver nitrate. Silver nitrate. Important to know the color of the precipitate will form it. In case of chlorine, you will find a white precipitate from silver chloride, AgCl. In case of bromide, you will find cream precipitate from silver bromide. And in case of iodide ion, all of them are negative ions with one sign negative. The precipitate will be yellow precipitate from the silver iodide, okay? This in page 195. And in the guidebook, you will find a table in page 55. I want this. And to know the formula of the precipitate. So, page 55 in the guidebook, important page in our lesson today. To test the presence of sulfate, presence of carbonate, to test the presence or identify anions, negative anions, halide anions by precipitation test by using silver nitrate. Guidebook, page 55, very, very important. And summary for this lesson. Okay? That's enough. And here in page 196, you have a very nice summary of the test for negative ions. This test, table 18.2a, very, very, very important, and summarize all things in our lesson today. This is our lesson today, and by this way I finished chapter 18. So in chapter 18, I want from you to study in the beginning. In chapter 18, I want from you to study how we can test the presence of different gases like hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine, ammonia, like this, and to know the test of each one, and then how we can test the presence of water by using anhydrous copper sulfate, which change into blue in case in the presence of water. And we can testing for ions, positive ions. We have flame test and using sodium hydroxide solution, because as you know, most of hydroxide salts are insoluble except sodium, lithium and ammonium, as we took in the last chapter. We have different colors of precipitate, and I said to you this table, page 194, is very important table. Page 18.1, important. And today we talked about how we can testing the presence of carbonate by adding dilute acid. This acid may be hydrochloric acid or nitric acid. You will get fizzy gas, which is carbon dioxide. You can test the presence of carbon dioxide by lime water, change it turbid or milky. To test the presence of sulfate, I'll add few drops from hydrochloric acid to be sure that all impurities removed from the salt under test, and then add barium chloride. If there is sulfate group, I'll get white precipitate. To test the presence of negative ions halide like chlorine, bromine and iodine, I'll add a few drops from nitric acid, okay, to make the media acidic and remove the impurities. Then add solution, few drops from silver nitrate solution. The white precipitate indicate presence of chlorine due to formation of silver chloride. The cream precipitate indicate presence of bromide, that is to say due to formation of silver bromide. And the yellow precipitate explain that we have iodide due to formation of silver iodide. And you can find this summary in table 18.2, very important table and important equation. And here in the guidebook, page 55, you can find the summary here and there. Thank you. I want from you to solve the questions in page 196. I want question number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay? Just here you will write the colors. No need to write how we make the experiment. Okay? When I find a video explain this practical part, I'll send it to you. Okay? And I want from question number 8, letter A only. Question number 8, letter A only. And about question number 3, I want to explain to me A is which compound, B which compound, C which compound, and also question 4 and 5, not more. And in question 8, I want the test presence of water. Okay, thank you and best wishes.